past weekend, while America was celebrating its 250th anniversary, a group of friends went out on a boat to celebrate Independence Day. Now, by the time the sun came up the next morning, one of them was gone. And not gone like he went home early, but gone like nobody could find him. Not on the boat, not on the island, not anywhere. So again, this baby's name is Nolan Wells. He was 18 years old, and over the next 72 hours, his name would go from being a missing person report to being a body recovered on a barrier island. Okay, so we're just going to walk through everything we actually know that's been confirmed, sourced, dated, and everywhere the official story and the family response doesn't quite line up. So let's get into it. So before anything else, again, I want you to know this baby is a young man, and his name is not just a headline. He is Nolan Xavier Wells. Now, Nolan is a 2025 graduate of Ocean Springs High School this last year here. So he was a multi-athlete sport. He'd go on to play a wide receiver at Southwest Mississippi Community College. Here he's a rising sophomore and gearing up for the football season ahead next month. And it's also right around his 19th birthday. So his head coach at Ocean Springs, Jake Bramlett, his name is, Jake says that Nolan was the kind of son, teammate, friend, and every coach hopes to have. Says his character spoke louder than his accomplishments. His mother, Christine Wansley, I do apologize for stuttering so badly here. His mother, Christine Wansley, described him as a special soul, someone always willing to cheer up other people, joke around, and, lift the room up. That's the person that's at the center of this story. So keep that in mind as we go through the timeline, because it's easy to lose sight of the human being in the middle of a news cycle. So again, this takes place on Saturday, July 4th, around 3 p.m. Nolan is on Horn Island. It's a barrier island about 10 miles off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. And that's south of Pascagoula. Again, I'm sorry for stuttering and not being too fancy with the names here. Nolan came out with a group of friends on a boat that launched from a private deck near Ocean Springs. He's last seen on the island's north end, reportedly talking to a female. At some point that day, Nolan gets separated from his phone. Now, I don't know about many of us, but I don't like to be in my house without my phone. Like, I don't like to be in the bedroom and I left it in the front room unless I'm like having downtime and I choose to be separated. But here, Nolan is a teenager. How many teenagers do you know willingly get separated from their phone? So later, his mother, Christine Wansley, says that the phone was returned to her, but Nolan himself didn't leave the island with his friends. Sometime after, the group leaves without him. Now, this is one of the more unsettling details in this entire case. According to the sheriff, from what we understand, he chose to stay there. The 19-year-old gets separated, the almost 19-year-old. He gets separated from his phone. He's talking to a female, so it would just make even more sense for him to have his phone with him. But that doesn't make any sense, right? So he gets separated from his phone, and from what we understand, again, he chose to stay there. Officials have not said Nolan was abandoned or left behind against his will. But the framing here matters because it's the difference between a young man who wanted a little more time on the island, maybe to hang out with this female he was saw talking to, and a young man who got left. Now, what we know of today is that Nolan was found deceased. So we don't have enough public information yet to know which one it was. And I want to be upfront about that. By Saturday night, Nolan hadn't come home, and his family reported him missing. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department set up a command post at the Lake Mars boat launch. Sheriff Ledbetter confirmed multiple agencies joined the search. This included Gulf Islands National Seashore, U.S. National Park Service, the Coast Guard, Mississippi Department of Marine Resources, Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fishery and Parks, plus the Biloxi Fire Department and the Volunteer United Cajun Army. So there was a quick response. Well into the 24 hours, there was a fast response, a large response to go out and find Nolan Wells. So now is Sunday, July 5th. Search efforts continued throughout the day and into the evening. Aircraft from the United Cajun Army are in the air before 6 a.m. Search boats are still out well into the night. So again, it was a fast response. They're on top of this. They pretty much, I guess, have some downtime for like the bathroom, lunch, change of clothes, and they're right back to this. So now we are on Monday, July 6th morning, which was yesterday at the time of this recording. Search boats are back out before 8 a.m. And that same morning, a National Park Service ranger finds a body on Horn Island in the water just off the island's northwestern tip. The same general area Nolan was last seen. At this point, officials have not confirmed identity. According to WLOX reports, the body is unidentified as of Sunday night into Monday. So now we have Monday afternoon and everything is moving fast, rapid fire speed here. Jackson County Coroner Bruce Lynn tells WLOX he had no reason to believe it wasn't him, but he says he'll wait on DNA before making it official. Just before 1 p.m., Nolan's mother confirms his death on Facebook. Just before 2 p.m., the family announces they've retained attorney Ben Crump. Yes, that's Ben Crump from Trayvon Martin and so many other black and brown cases that have been called for injustice. And they're calling for a thorough and transparent investigation into how Nolan died. Around 2 p.m., Coroner Lynn confirms the identification through dental records. So here we are today, Tuesday, July 7th. An autopsy is being conducted at the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office Coast Lab. Okay, officials say the toxicology results in full findings could take a couple of weeks. That's the timeline as confirmed as of the moment that I'm recording this. So what I really want to pay attention to, and this is because of the part that people are going to argue about in the comments. Sheriff John Ledbetter has said he does not suspect foul play. His working theory, based on what's been reported, is that Nolan drowned. I want to say this clearly. This is the official position, and it may absolutely turn out to be correct. Water, current, nighttime, unfamiliar terrain. Drownings happen. And they happen to strong, young athletes too. And I'm not telling you that the sheriff is wrong or that he's, hiding information. So what I am saying is that it is a theory for right now, and it's not a finding. The autopsy just happened today. toxicology does take weeks, and cause and manner of death have not been officially released. So when you see the headlines already leaning into he drowned as a settled fact, that's ahead of where the actual evidence currently stands. The reason Ben Crump was picked is a detail that's driving a lot of public reaction, and I think it's worth sitting with instead of rushing past. The family didn't just grieve quietly and wait for the medical examiner. Within hours of confirming Nolan's death, they already had retained Ben Crump, a nationally known civil rights and personal injury attorney, a name that shows up specifically when families feel like the official account might not tell the whole story or might not get the scrutiny it deserves. Again, let's remember Trayvon Martin and so many other cases that he has worked on since then, countless cases, in fact. Crump's statement wasn't vague. He said the family will not rest until every fact about what has happened to Nolan on Horn Island is brought into the light, and called on investigators to pursue the case with urgency and transparency this family deserves. And I don't feel like that's neutral language. That's the language that signals the family isn't fully confident in the current investigation as it stands and what will get them the full truth on its own. So Ben Crump is today's modern version of Al Sharpton, Reverend Jesse Jackson, more on the personal injury lawyer side of things and definitely the civil rights side of things. But he's entered the picture. He is speaking on behalf of his family, and he wants them to get the full truth on its own. Now, is that because they know something we don't know, or is it because any family in this position, especially one whose son died under circumstances involving other people who left the scene, right? So I can't have a fender bender and leave the scene. I'm supposed to stay there, exchange information, exchange insurance, and wait for the police to show and go about this in a certain set of steps. And these young men, his quote-unquote friends, left the scene. And because of that, it has every reason not to just take an initial no foul play read at face value. I'm not going to pretend that I can answer that right now, but I do think it's completely reasonable thing for them to do, and I don't think it should automatically read as suspicious of investigators either. Sometimes we want transparency, and that's just what we mean, transparency, right? What I'm watching going forward is to not manufacture conspiracy when there isn't one. But here's what I'm personally sitting with and what I'll be tracking as more of this comes out. I am trying to do better with doing the uploads and follow-ups. So this whole angle of he chose to stay. Who said that, and is based off of what? Why would he choose to stay on an island? And then we say, it was nighttime, it was unfamiliar, unknown territory. Well, that would be more concerning on why the friends would leave him. And why would he separate from his phone? How did his phone end up on a boat if he was last seen at the northern point of the island here? All right. So was that, he chose to stay? Was this the perspective of one of the friends who was on the boat? And if so, has law enforcement independently corroborated that story? Who did they talk to? How did they conclude this? Or is it still just what the group told investigators? Again, my next concern is the phone. Nolan was separated from his phone and it was later returned to his mother, but how did she get the phone? When did she get the phone? Because from what we know so far and what's been confirmed is that they went out that same day and they were on top of it in the search area. All over this island, multiple agencies were out looking for this young man. And very early, 6 a.m. the following morning. And then after that, very early still, 8 a.m., they were out again. So at what point did she get this phone and who did she get it from? That's a detail on its face that sounds minor, but the timelines built around this missing phone matter a lot in a case like this. Okay. The other angle that I'm looking at is the no foul play, and we need a thorough investigation. So 2 things could be true. The sheriff currently not suspecting foul play and the family legitimately wanting more scrutiny. I'm not saying those are in conflict, but I want to see where the actual autopsy and the toxicology land before I settle on either read. And none of this is me telling you something that happened. I don't want to give out false information. I am telling you what a careful person should be asking while we wait on the actual findings. This baby, Nolan Wells, was 18 years old, and he was just a few days from turning 19, weeks away from heading back to Southwest Mississippi Community College to suit up for another football season. He was, by every account from people who actually knew him, a genuinely good kid. Right now, what we have is a timeline and an unconfirmed cause of death, a sheriff who doesn't suspect foul play, a family that's asking the world not to look away until every answer is actually confirmed. I myself can pledge that I will not be looking away. There are so many cases. I don't know if you guys remember the twins that were found atop a mountain, and they couldn't understand how the twins were coming from. They were coming from home and they were going to see a friend up in the northeastern part. I believe it was Boston, but they were found up on the top of a mountain, and they said that it was murder-suicide, that the one off the other and then off themselves, but there's no confirmed reason. So again, when this family says, please don't look away until every answer is actually confirmed. Shanquilla Robinson and the Cabo Six going out with friends. The woman, I don't want to, misquote her name, but she's in the news a lot now for the sleepover, and was found deceased, and she was the only one. I'm going to keep following this one. When the autopsy results and the toxicology report come back, I'll be back with an update, and I'll tell you plainly what's confirmed and what's still just a working theory, the same as I did today. If you have listened to me struggle and straggle throughout this whole story here, thank you so much for listening to me. I do appreciate it. Please, please, please help my channel grow. All right. We are a strong, small, mighty group here, and we are just trying to get to our first few hundred subscribers. I'm not here to guess anything. I'm here to lay out exactly what's been reported, to tell you clearly if something is still unconfirmed, and, let you draw your own conclusions about the full picture in front of you. Please drop your thoughts below. Have you been the only? Have you been that only Black friend and went out somewhere and experienced something that was awkward and off? Let me know. And again, please like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you want to be here when the update drops, make sure, again, that you are subscribed. I do appreciate that, and have a good day.